Hey there, and welcome. So, if you've ever learned English, you have definitely run into this classic problem. Should I focus on American English or British English? I mean, is one of them actually better or, more correct? Let's get right into it.
You see these differences everywhere, right? For Brits, it's a flat. For Americans, it's an apartment. A holiday is a vacation. And yeah, trousers and chips can really get confusing for an American speaker. It's supposed to be the same language, but sometimes it sure doesn't feel like it.
And all of this leads to the one big question that trips so many people up. With all these different words, which one is actually the right one to use? It's a question people ask constantly, but you know what? The answer might just surprise you.
To figure this out, we've got to rewind a bit. We have to understand that we're not dealing with one language that's just full of mistakes. No, what we're looking at is a single language that basically grew up in two totally different places and took two totally different journeys. Over in America, for example, guys like Noah Webster actually changed spellings on purpose, like turning color into color, because they wanted to create a new national identity, something separate from Britain. So a lot of these differences were completely intentional.
And of course, with those different worlds, you get different ideas about each other. You might hear some British speakers say American English is a bit loud. And on the flip side, some Americans think British English sounds a little stuffy or old-fashioned. But what's really key here is that these are just opinions, They're about culture, not about grammar.
This brings us to the main idea we really need to break down, because this is where so much of the stress comes from for learners. It's this myth of a perfect English. It's this belief that somewhere out there there's one single correct version and everyone else is just getting it wrong.
Okay, let's just be super clear about this. The idea that there is only one correct English, it's a complete and total myth. And honestly, believing in it just makes learning the language way harder and a lot less fun. So, the bottom line is, it's just not true.
A much better way to think about English is to imagine it like a river. It's not some static monument that's carved in stone, never to be touched. Nope. It's a living, breathing thing that is always on the move, always flowing and changing as it travels through time and across the globe.
And this shows that idea perfectly. I mean, the English from 500 years ago is so different from the English 100 years ago. And that's different again from what we speak today. Change isn't some new problem. It's just what English does. It always has.
So, if language is constantly changing, what's actually making it happen? What are the forces behind all this evolution? Well, it turns out there are a few major things that are always shaping the words we use. It really just boils down to three main drivers. First, new inventions and technology literally force us to create new words. Second, as English spreads around the world, it borrows words and ideas from other cultures. And third, you've got youth culture, which is always renewing the language with fresh slang and new ways of saying things. This has been happening for centuries.
Just think about it for a second. The word selfie would have made zero sense 100 years ago. The technology didn't even exist. Words like this, or download, or Wi-Fi, they're born because our world changes, and our language has to keep up.
And then you have stuff from youth culture. When you hear someone say a party was lit, that's not English being destroyed, that's English being refreshed. Young people have always been the engine of change in language, always finding new ways to express themselves.
The thing is, most of this change happens so slowly that we hardly even notice it. It's kind of like the weather. You don't feel every little change in air pressure, but you definitely notice when summer turns to fall. Language is the exact same way. It's a totally natural, healthy process.
So this leads us to a really big realization, something that goes way beyond just vocabulary. The differences between American and British English are not really about what's right and what's wrong. They're actually a window into something way more interesting: culture.
For instance, Americans tend to use these big, enthusiastic words all the time. Everything is awesome or fantastic. But in Britain, you might give something huge praise by just saying, not bad, or quite good. Neither one is wrong. They just show different cultural approaches to how we talk to each other. And, of course, these cultural differences can lead to some pretty hilarious misunderstandings. Imagine an American in London saying, "I love your pants." They're going to get a very strange look because they're talking about two very different pieces of clothing. It's a classic mix-up. And look, this is why all of this really matters for you, especially if you're a learner. If native speakers can get confused and misunderstand each other, then it is absolutely okay if you do too. It's not your fault. It's just a normal part of communication. Seriously, the goal isn't to be perfect, it's just to be understood.
All right, so let's pull all this together. Now that we've kind of seen why all these differences exist, let's talk about the most important part of all. What does this actually mean for you, for the way you speak English, and for finding your own voice?
Because when you get right down to it, language isn't just a tool, like a hammer. It is woven into the very fabric of who we are. It's a huge part of our identity.
The specific way you speak, your accent, the words you choose, it's all tied up with your memories, your culture, your whole sense of belonging. And that's why people can get so protective of their dialect. It's not just a bunch of words, it's the sound of home.
And here is maybe the most powerful idea to take away from all of this. Every single time you speak English, you are adding your voice to this amazing, living global story. Your accent, your unique way of speaking, it's a totally valid and valuable part of how this language keeps growing.
So let's try to completely reframe the goal here. Instead of constantly worrying, is my English correct? What if instead we started asking, is my English connecting? Does it let you share your thoughts? Does it help you understand other people? Does it let you connect with the world? Because in the end, that is what language is really all about.